All right, so here's the basics quiz you guys took. This thing had a passing average all in all, so it wasn't horrible. But lots of little things. Like this says the word factor. I probably had 10 kids solve for X. It doesn't say solve, it says factor. And some of y'all, God bless you, you don't know how to even pull a number. This is 25 times x squared minus 4, and that's a really bad looking 2 there, but this becomes 25x squared. 25 times 4 is 100. And then x squared minus 4 is x minus, I'll do plus 2 and then minus 2. Think about foiling. You guys are just writing stuff and you're not thinking about what you're writing. I was rather shocked by how many kids missed number 2. It's a really simple problem. You move 99 over and you change your sign. Like, kids, you've been doing algebra for a minute. Some of y'all aren't even changing the sign. The opposite of a square is a square root. I know that this is imaginary, and I'm going to include the plus or minus symbol because I had to have 2 answers. There's 2 of them there. And I gave you something for that, but you really need to learn how to simplify a radical. The imaginary root of 99 is 9 times 11, and the root of 9 is 3i. So this becomes plus or minus 3i root 11. The lack of the plus or minus symbol was a big deal. A lot of kids didn't write it. Solve the factored polynomial. No, by the way, factors have x's, okay? 4 is not a factor. This is not a factor. It doesn't have an x, but you have x minus 5 that's a factor. You have 2x plus 7 that's a factor, and you have 2x plus 1/9 that's a factor, and they're all equal to 0 by the zero product property. We're going to add 5, we get a 5. We're going to take away 7, and then we're going to divide by 2. Not everybody realizes that you have to divide by 2. So there's negative 7/2. We're going to add 1/9, subtract 1/9, and then we're going to divide by 2, and division happens in the denominator. And 2 times 9 is 18, so negative 1/18. So there's the first 3. They went fairly well. This was not supposed to be picked. Like, I put choice B on there just to see how many kids would pick it, and by the time I got to 6th period, I was telling kids not to pick it. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times negative 7i is minus 28i. 2i times 6 is plus 12i. And then 2i times negative 7i is negative 14i squared. You're not supposed to pick I. You're supposed to know that I squared is negative 1. So negative 14 times a negative 1 is a positive 14. So this piece right here becomes plus 14. 24 and 14 is 38, and negative 28 plus 12 is minus 16i. Choice A. Quadratic formula didn't go as well as I had hoped it would. The reason it didn't go as well as I hoped it would was a lot of us still don't know how to simplify radicals, and we're juniors in high school. And we have serious issues with using technology. Plus, some of us don't know the formula. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A is 4, b is negative 6, and c is 7. So opposite of a negative 6 is a positive 6. And when you go here, you guys are forgetting the parentheses. The reason at least 10 of you missed this question is because you did negative 6 squared minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which was what? 7. That's what you did wrong when you were supposed to use parentheses. I told you that. Like, fix your issues, kids. That's what you're supposed to get in a radical. Anyways, let me finish writing this out. Minus 4 times a times c, all sitting pretty over twice a. So, I just pushed some buttons in the calculator, but what's in this radical is the negative 76, and they're both pieces are sitting over an 8, because 2 times 4 is 8. And I gave you a point if you got that. I gave you half credit. But first off, this is imaginary. It is not real. And the number is divisible by 4. You're holding a calculator. Take 76 divided by 4. Why 4? Because you can take the square root of 4. It's the imaginary root of 4 times 19, which is 2i root 19. So I'm going to do the break apart like I keep showing you, but you keep doing your own thing, and your own thing ain't working. If what you're doing isn't working, you quit doing it. You start doing it the way it is modeled to you. Stop doing you. You ain't working. Do it the way Milbrath is modeling. 6 over 8 is 3/4. 2 over 8 is 1/4. I mean, there isn't a kid in that I teach who doesn't know how to reduce a fraction, so reduce the fraction. Anybody should be able to reduce 6/8 down to 3/4. Anybody should be able to reduce 2/8 down to 1/4. That should not be an issue. Anybody holding a calculator ought to be able to figure out some things you can take square roots of. All right, we have the synthetic division one. Synthetic division's got to be a staple of what you do. Numerous kids can't copy down numbers. Like, that is an issue. You got to pay attention to signs. That's a -3. That's a -5. That's a -4. And this says x is -1, so we're going to put a -1 on the outside. Then we're going to drop. The acronym was DMA. Drop, multiply, and add. -1 times -2 is 2. Of course, I saw issues with y'all. Y'all struggle with adding, you're struggling with multiplying, and you're holding a calculator at that. So -1 times -1 is 1, -5 plus 1 is -4, -1 times -4 is 4, 0. Which, and by the way, there were lots of kids who didn't realize that this is the remainder, which is actually what it is. Remainder theorem says that synthetic division and plugging a number get the same thing. All right, number 7, determine the average rate of change for this function. This would probably had about a 75% correct rate. The formula is f of b minus f of a, sitting pretty over b minus a. And I don't know why when you're holding a calculator you could possibly miss these things. This is a, this is b. But, you know, whatever, kids. Keep doing things your way and keep getting it wrong. Take a 2, store it to x. Type in the equation as written. Don't do as some kids did and think you can actually do 2 times 3 and rewrite this as 6 times x plus 1, because you can't. So if I plug in a 2, I get a 57, and that was b. Then I have a minus, so there's a minus. Now I'm going to take my calculator, if it'll open, I'm going to take a -1 and store it to x. I'll go back up and highlight my work. I'm going to get a 5. And the bottom is b minus a, so 2 minus a -1. 57 minus 5 is 52. 2 take away -1 is 3. Choice D. 8 probably had about a 90% success rate. Like 8 went well, so that's good. It means a lot of us are finally figuring out our calculators. But it should be a 100% success rate problem. So we're going to type in the equation. Oh, sorry, we're going to put 100 in y1. Equation is -16x to the second plus 144x plus 24. We'll do our zoom 6 the way Milbrath trained you to do it. Once it's done, we'll play with the window. The height is above 100, and you put 100 in y1. So go to window and just look up, and it'll do the job. Do 125, graph. And you can see it go up, and then you'll see it come back down. Don't ever play with X max until you've played with Y max, okay? So let's do a second trace. Five, Enter, enter, enter. Now look at that time, 0.5630. You see it? 0.5630. It's right there, choice B. This one didn't go so hot. 9 really disappointed me. Like it was a big frowny face for me. Like I expected 95% plus. Like these are questions that I need to be pulling from these things because they're supposed to be something that we all get. But I just have to leave it around and it makes the quiz so blasted long. Like get your crap together. For the umpteenth time, this says x is -3. By the way, known factors come from zeros. So if it's not 0, I'm throwing it away. That was a 4, that was a 3. And this says x is -3, and if I just shift that to the left, I get x plus 3. See how I'm leaving parentheses and becoming a factor, and I'm changing signs? Now this one says x is 0. If I shift it to the left, I have x minus 0, which is just x. And this says x is 2. If I just shift it left, I have x minus 2. Like, that's supposed to be the easy question. Now, 10, the one beneath this, I'd say I probably had around a 70% pass rate on 10. And I gave you the formula. Your difference, 23 minus 10 is 13. 10 minus a -3 is 13. Your difference between terms is 13. Like, why can't you figure that out? Like, are you so slow you don't know what 23 minus 10 is? The first term is the first thing you see. Now, you just plug into your formula here, and you read the formula. Don't be the kid who forgets there's a plus sign when it's right there. Pay attention to detail. You don't plug anything in for n. You're writing the equation. What is a sub n? And then you got your 13. And then you hit this thing with the distributive property. You'll get 13n minus 13, carrying down the -3 you already had. And then you're going to combine like terms. There's 13n, and -3 minus 13 is -16. This is the nth term. This is not rocket science. It's arithmetic sequences. This was a complete disaster. This page was a complete disaster. Let's go over end behavior again, because I obviously have so much time to keep going over the same concepts with you. X to the even starts high, ends high. Negative x to the even starts low, ends low. X to the odd starts low, ends high. Negative x to the odd starts high, ends low. This one right here is starting low and ending low. It is negative x to the even. I even saw one kid draw these 4 things on their piece of paper and still miss it. All right. I probably have 5 kids who can't pick out zeros. Zeros are x-intercepts, okay? That's what they are. There's one right here. It's at -0.5. There's one right here. X is 0. There's one right here. X is 2. And there's another one right here. X is 3. Multiplicity. Touch equals twice. Across equals once. This one is crossing the x-axis. 1, crossing. 1, touching. 2, touching. 2. And the thing that probably bothered me the most on this entire quiz was 13. The number of turning points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 turning points. The least degree of the polynomial based upon turning points is TP plus 1. So, TP for turning points. If you're just a little bit slow, 5 plus 1 is 6. Write an equation assuming that a is -1/2. So, what threw kids off, I think, was a lot of kids don't understand multiplicity. and then they kind of do some silly things. But let's see here. This x equals 2 is going to be an x minus 2. That's got an x minus 2, x minus 2, x minus 2. Multiplicity is 2, so the exponent's got to be a 2, not d. Only has a 1. All right, we have x equals 3. That's an x minus 3. By the way, this one didn't even have x minus 2. Should have never been picked. So we're good on that. The issue is this. A lot of kids picked B, but if you take 2x minus 1 and set it equal to 0, you'll get x is 1/2 when it's supposed to be negative 1/2. It's choice C. This is not the correct factor. All right? Oh, by the way, notice this is even, so is 6. Some of you guys wrote odd numbers, picked an even, like you're not thinking. All right, state the domain. This one, it runs from -6 to -4. Then it runs from -4 all the way to 3. Then it runs from 3 to 7 as choice B. The range, your low y value is -4. Your high y value is 4. You are increasing. This went fairly well. And I didn't like the way I wrote this one, but you just kind of ignore that. You increase from -6 to -2. This is uphill. You decrease from here to here, so from 3 to 7, because this is downhill. Constant means flat line. You're constant from -2 to 3. I don't understand what's wrong with y'all on x-intercepts. This is a hole. There's nothing there, so it's C only. Y-intercepts, it's literally something I ask you to memorize. Y-intercept. You let x equal 0. It's the only one. I didn't have to look at the graph, man. Then we get 23 and 24. Like, average rate of change is slope. Are you so dense that you don't understand yet that this is slope? Because this is not a question that should be getting missed. This is a 7th grade math standard. Here is an x. Here is another x. When x is -6, I am this point on the graph. When x is 3, I am this point on the graph. That's where I am, irregardless of if there's a hole there or not. Slope is a linear concept, so I'm thinking about the slope of that line. And what happened to that line? Count blocks. I went up 8 blocks, and I went right. What do we got? 3, 6, 9. And I was going uphill, so positive 8/9. 24 is find f of -4 if it does not exist. State why it does not exist. There is a hole, DNE, a hole in the graph. And I don't know why, but 25 is apparently cut off. 25 says f of 0. So when x is 0, I'm right here. And there may not be a point there, but there's a line there. It's 4. I have been trying for years to fix kids' interpretations of graphs. Like, you don't get good at math until you understand graphs. Anyways, there's that quiz. If you didn't like it, do a retake, which I still need to make today at some point in time.